It was almost tear jerking, the cars coming in and you could not save them. I bet you thought Cash for Clunkers was an old story. The repercussions of it are still alive and kicking today. And this could be a polarizing topic as far as the benefits and the pros and cons of it. But I'm going to tell you my side because I'm in the salvage business and the used car business. So I was affected in both aspects of it. So Cash for Clunkers was a program by the government where, you would trade in your car that had a certain amount of miles and a certain year old, and then they would give you these huge credits to buy a new car. So you could take your car in and get it didn't even matter if it was running. So that was good for somebody they were dragging cars out of their backyard and getting $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for them. But also they were taking perfectly good running cars and trading them in also. Everybody was dragging everything out, and it was this crazy program to where you were just getting a ridiculous and obscene amount of money, more value for it than what it was worth. And and that it just, whenever something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. There's always some repercussions of it. So they were taking all these cars and trading them in on a new car. They were trying to help out the new car market. The new car market was in a bad way. They were struggling, and they're like, hey, well, this will be a boost in the arm to the new car market. And so they're taking all these cars. So it's salvage cars and used cars. They're thinking that these cars are bad for the environment, and they're trying to get these old cars off the road. I can kind of understand what they think they're doing, but I think the flip side of it negates the benefits massively. So I wasn't even able to buy cars, salvage cars, because they were getting so much money for them. My supply of salvage cars just immediately like that dried up. I can't buy cars. You had to be in the program, and I wasn't a big enough salvage yard. I don't know if they had requirements of how much space you had or how you could process them like that. I don't have my own shredder or anything. So I didn't qualify to be a Cash for Clunkers disposal yard per se, but a yard right down the road from me was. So they're taking these cars and running and driving cars that are being traded in. They're coming in by the truckload to the salvage yard, and they have to be destroyed. Low-income people, they're needing to get to work. They need to fix their car. They can't afford a new car, so you're forcing these people to now make new car purchases and to get into debt. So you're really starting this terrible cycle. And so literally they couldn't sell engines, couldn't sell transmissions. They actually had to pour the supplements into them and start them and destroy. They were required to destroy the engine, destroy the transmission. They could only take a few parts off the car, and then the car had to be shredded. So these cars are coming in, and it was like 700,000 cars destroyed. I mean, that's not a small number. I mean, this is massive. Anything massive like that's going to have massive repercussions. The salvage prices are up. Well, there's 700,000 scrap cars that just hit the scrap metal market, right? What did metal prices do? The metal prices completely tanked. So I live off of buying cars for a good price, selling the good parts, and then scrapping what's left of my car to recoup more profit, right? Typical scrap prices were $175 in that time period, $175, maybe $200 a ton, right? So that was kind of a going scrap rate. It fluctuates just like any market, right? It got down to $15 a ton. They had all this metal. They couldn't even get rid of it. So what happens to a lot of this metal? It gets shipped overseas, right? So we basically took all of our natural resources, scrapped them, paid money to do it out of the government, and then got pennies on the dollar for the value and shipped it to our competitors. So the way I look at it, you might find it differently, okay? So how does this all come back at us now? So that completely screwed it up. I had to literally I've been stacking cars for 10 years because It's just like almost like a stock market, right? Why am I going to sell my stock when it's down? Only storing hundreds of cars is not like storing stock. My yard is just stacked and packed and I can't even move around, but I just refuse to give my cars away. I mean, that's just me. I mean, maybe I'm dumb and, stubborn, and I just, I probably would have been better off just taking the hit and making room and, whatever. But for whatever reason, it just, out of principle, I just stacked these cars waiting for prices to come up. Just as of recently, right? They actually shot up now and they're like $250 a ton. I've waited 10 years or more to recoup, right? At least I held on to it, and that's been my mission here for like this fall. We've hauled off probably 200 cars, So that was back in the day. You think, okay, well that's an old story, but then everybody talks about today, like, why are car prices so crazy? Like, look on Bring a Trailer, look at Barrett Jackson and all these late 70s to early 90s, Hondas and Toyotas, and, they were just used cars back in the day, right? Why is a Honda Civic bringing $40,000 on Bring a Trailer? It's a supply and demand. These were common cars. Lots of people had them in their youth. Lots of people, it's just a natural progression. People want to relive their youth, cars of their youth. They couldn't afford it back then, and now they have some money and they want their little Civic Si that they couldn't have. They've either been Fast and Furious to death, or they've been crashed for clunkered, or just, turned into a drag car and all that stuff. It's like, well, they made lots of these cars, but the cash for clunkers consumed a large, you wouldn't believe the cars coming in. Perfect running Mercedes coupes, BMW 635s. It was almost tear-jerking, the cars coming in, and you could not save them. And being a car enthusiast, that was a hard thing to see. But again, that was a long time ago, and it's like, well, what's the effect of it now? The crazy car market is, I think, a lot to do with cash for clunkers. It consumed so many cars and just destroyed viable cars that there's just not enough to go around. It was designed to be a shot in the arm for the new car dealers. So what happened? Everybody bought a new car during cash for clunkers. And everybody went in, got rid of their used car, took on debt, and bought a new car. So they sold cars like crazy. And they basically hedged all of their sales in a short time period. Now everybody has a new car. Everybody's buried in a car loan that they're upside down on. So the next 3 to 5 years, I believe that the new car dealers were actually in worse shape than they were before the cash for clunkers. So you just consider it all. To me, it's got to be one of the most massive, unthought through waste of resources, government failed programs from my personal experience. The total cost of taxpayers was $2.9 billion with a B. Factor that in, and then not only that, but you put the general public in a bad financial state. It looked good in the beginning, but it's just had a really negative knockoff long-term effect that we're still feeling to this day.
5 years ago, the first sponsor we ever had here on the VINwiki channel was Caffeine and Octane. Now, they're our local Atlanta Cars and Coffee meetup that I've been going to for 15 or so years now, but it is now the largest monthly recurring automotive gathering on Earth. Now, you'll also recognize Caffeine and Octane from their television show, and the next season of that airs very soon on Motor Trend. In their quest for further automotive world domination, they just bought the legendary Lanier Motor Speedway, which is across the street from Road Atlanta. So throughout the next year, we're going to have a lot of amazing events there that you'll be invited to join. But the coolest project they've deployed lately is called HighOctane.tv, and it's a free streaming network that you can access from any smart TV, Roku, Fire Stick, smartphone, or a computer, and it'll give you access to a ton of programming, including all 5 seasons of their show, some content from creators we love like David Patterson, That Dude in Blue, and a ton more. Soon there will be some content from VINwiki on there as well. So visit the link in the description below to learn more about the amazing world of Caffeine and Octane.